Well, hello everybody and welcome to Lunch Break Live. Real talk about obesity, food addiction, recovery, and what's really eating you. I am Carrie De La Cruz here with you once again. Let's see, it's Thursday afternoon here and I called this, It's a Miracle. And you know what? It is a miracle that I am here with you right now because let me tell you, it has been a heck of a morning around here. I've been doing manual labor, packing boxes to ship internationally. So, wow, I'm actually happy to be sitting down with you guys to talk about this. Now, I did make notes, and I want to stick pretty closely to them because I don't want this show to go too long, but I do want to address things properly. So I am going to try and stick fairly close to my notes. Thank you for all the hearts floating by. I see you guys here. Hi, Mama. So happy that you guys are with me as ever. All right. So putting my glasses on for this one, and I'm going to stick to it. If you joined me for yesterday's program, which I do hope you did, I talked about cleaning out your pumpkin or your house or your purse or your life to make room for the light of recovery. Okay. I was totally blown away by the reaction. I could not believe the response to this because silly little me, I did not imagine that it would strike a chord with you guys that way. I just thought it was kind of like a simple little life lesson, but strike a chord it did. And so much so that I wanted to dedicate today's show to kind of a follow-up of what I talked about yesterday as it relates specifically to me. Okay, so let me begin by explaining this whole thing, like me. This did not happen overnight. I think it's really easy to look at me and say, oh yeah, it's easy for you to say, or this just happened overnight, or you just woke up one day and, I think I'll be fine. No, it was a process. And by the way, it's not over, which is why instead of living recovered, I'm living in recovery. You get it? It's an ongoing process. The fact that I am sitting here in front of you guys today, though, is nothing short of a miracle. I mean that. It is a miracle, and that is why I called today's show, It's a Miracle. Now, there are a lot of slogans in the recovery world. Some of you may be familiar with those, and there's a lot of really, really great ones out there. One of my favorites is, don't quit before the miracle happens. I love that one, and what it means is keep fighting because you never know when the miracle of recovery will finally grab hold. And it's different for everyone. It's absolutely different for everyone, and no one can do it for you. See? All right. So now would be a really good time, I think, to share my little story of the recovery Hokey Pokey. All right. And I talk about this. I've written about this before. It's might be new to you if you're new to me, or some of you may have heard it in some variation or form or other before, but it's still really, really relevant, I think. The recovery Hokey Pokey, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, 1 hand in, 1 foot out, your whole self in, your whole self out, the whole thing. Oh boy, I did that for a while. Now let's see here. I talk about it like this because I think it helps people to understand that this isn't a one then done thing, and it's not easy, okay? But it's also not as hard as we think it is. That's the paradox of recovery. All right, so not a one then done proposition. So the woman that you see sitting here talking to you guys today didn't just wake up one day, decide to change my life, give up a whole bunch of foods, magically change everything about the way I think and feel and behave. And that didn't just happen. It wasn't just a one-day thing, okay? It's been a process. Not only that, but the woman that you see sitting here talking to you isn't necessarily the woman that you're going to see tomorrow, because recovery is fluid and impermanent. All right. So that's why I'm saying it's recovery, not recovered. Okay. So back to the Hokey Pokey. Before I had weight loss surgery in 2007, I had done a lot of work on myself. I had really been working, learning to own my crap and understand my character defects. Okay. Which is what they call them in the 12-step programs. And those things are impediments to recovery. I didn't understand it there because I did not understand addiction. I did not understand that I was a food addict, but I was trying to do work on things that I thought were problems in my life, things that were problems with me. And I got to a point, and these are ways of behaving and thinking that get in the way of thinking, behaving in a healthy way. Does that make sense? So these were unhealthy ways of behaving and thinking that get in the way of thinking and behaving in healthy ways. Those were the things I was working on. I didn't realize it at the time. And I got to a point where I was convinced that All that was left for me to do to be happy was to lose weight. I was convinced that I had, quote, fixed everything else in my life, and it just came down to losing weight and I'd be done. That was what I absolutely believed. I believed my happiness was just over the rainbow of the scale, and that once I weighed a certain magical number, I would be happy. Well, some of the things that I was working on in those days before I began to lose weight were easier to accept and address than other things. Okay, because it's hard to learn things about ourselves that are ugly, or things that we never imagined were true, or, you know, seeing things through other people's eyes, seeing yourself through other people's eyes. I mean, it's not easy, okay? And here's the thing. Some of these things I wasn't even aware of until I did begin to lose weight. I couldn't see them. I was blinded to them, all right? And that is why this is a process and a journey. Now, at some point, after losing more than half of my body weight, I figured out that my happiness was not tied to my weight at all. That was the crazy thing. I mean, it was such a shocker the day I realized, I'm thin, why aren't I happy? Oh, because the number on the scale is not the determining factor of my happiness. All right, so what that told me was I still had a bunch more work to do. And that is where therapy came into the picture. I cannot say it enough, you guys. I am not a therapist, okay? I had to do my therapy and work my therapy. I can't do it for you, and I can't therapize you, all right? You gotta find a therapist to do this stuff, all right? Let's see here. Let's see. Therapy came into the picture about 3 to 4 years after weight loss surgery. And I started seeing a therapist named Jim, and we were working on, I guess we worked for like a year and a half, on things that revolved around my attitudes and beliefs in the workplace, right? So I figured all of my unhappiness had to do with like people at work or my professional life or something like that. So that's tended to be where I kind of focused things in the beginning. And maybe it's because they felt safer to me, right? They weren't so dangerous because they weren't so close to home, right? Or maybe there were things I was just ready to look at. And I mean, it's not going to be the same for everybody. But it's just the process that, you know, worked for me. Anyway, my next therapist, Robert, helped me focus more closely on my family system. So what I had grown up with, what my beliefs were about that, and my relationships with my husband and my daughter and my friends. And, I also began to work on my relationship with myself and food. That was a biggie. See, I never understood that I had a relationship with food, and I did not understand what kind of relationship, how unhealthy the relationship was that I actually did have with myself. For some reason, I always thought it was going on outside of me, and that if I could fix everything outside of me, then I would just magically, miraculously be better. But that wasn't true. I worked really, really hard to face my crap. This takes courage, you guys. It takes willingness to learn stuff about yourself that really sucks. That's why we call it crap, because it stinks, all right? It wasn't easy. It was scary. And I learned stuff about myself that I never knew. I learned mostly a lot of lies I told to myself. A lot of lies I told myself and believed. And I learned how denial had kept me sick and well at the same time. See, so I would deny and tell lies about my sickness. And then I would tell lies to make myself feel well, all right? And sometimes those lies revolve around, oh, I'm not that bad. Those people over there are worse, so I don't have a problem. Or I'm the healthiest one in my family. Or, you know, those people had those problems. But so, you know what, I'm totally fine because I'm functioning and they're not. So I must not have big problems. See, we do that. That's where denial comes in. Denial, you know, kept me sick and protected me at the same time. So by the time I was done with Robert, which was, you know, about a year and a half or something like that, I was stronger. I was a stronger and more confident version of myself. But I still had a problem that I could not fix, and that was food addiction. Oh, it was nasty. It was scary. It was overwhelming. And you know what? Sometimes I felt like a fraud. I did. I felt like, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me and nobody knows because all they can see is how I look. They have no idea what's going on in my head. Okay, I would binge, but I didn't throw up because my version of a binge was like 5 Oreo cookies or whatever. So what's the big deal, right? But it just didn't feel right. But people were judging me on how I looked, and I looked fine. But inside, I was a mess. So I tried to sober up a lot of times, deciding, okay, today's the day. Yep, today's the day I'm going to do it. Or, okay, this is the last time I'm ever going to eat that. Or no more X ever, whatever X is, right? And here's the thing. Here's how I visualized recovery. It was like an island across a raging creek, and we know what that creek is called. Yes, it was across that creek. And I would stick my toe into that dirty, gunky, brown, stinky water, and I would slowly wade in, and I would try, quote, giving up this or giving up that. Just little bits, right? Just little bits. I just won't order French fries ever again, okay? I just won't have potato chips. I just won't, just dipping my toe in and wading in, okay? And then I'd run back to shore, inevitably, because I'd blow it, right? I'd blow it. It's all over. I'm going back to the safety, which is really just the familiarity of the life I had always lived on that shore, where I was surrounded by all of those unhealthy foods. Okay? But it was what I knew. But there were people over on this island across that stinky creek beckoning me and waving at me and going, come on, you can do it. You can do it. And I'm like, oh, I want that. I want what they have. Oh, I want to be with you. I want to be with you. There has to be an easier way. Maybe I can take a helicopter over. Me and those helicopters. Or a bridge, or a boat. Yes, I will take a boat, and then I won't even have to get into that gunky water. No, there is no faster, easier way. There is no faster, easier way. There are no rocks to step across. You have to wade in and get in over your head. And let me tell you, at one point, I got really far, and I was in over my head. It was like I couldn't see and I couldn't breathe, and I started to panic. I had come a really long way, but I started to panic. And what did I do? I fled back to shore, to the familiarity of what I knew. And guess what I saw when I got there? I saw how close I was to the island. Oh my God, I was so close. But I didn't know it because I couldn't see. And you know what that meant? I didn't trust the process. I didn't trust the process. And that is such a vital part of this. You have to trust because you don't know how close you are. And that is why it's called a miracle. It was right there, but I didn't trust. And boy, let me tell you, when I got back to shore, I stank, I was soaking wet, and I was mad. I was really mad because I had been so close, and I thought, what is your problem, Carrie? You don't think you can do this? You don't think you've got enough courage and strength to do this? You better get over that. Suck it up, Buttercup, right? I've said that before, and boy, it was so fitting here. And so, let's see, what happened next? It came down to losing faith, I think, at that point, guys. That's another way of looking at not trusting the process. Well, that was the day I realized just how close I had come to tasting the freedom of recovery. So close, it was right there. And I stood on the shore and I looked at all those people joyfully celebrating on the island of recovery, and I decided I wanted what they had no matter what. No matter what. And that was the day that I decided I would make my food abstinence list, a physical list, not one up here in my head that I could lie about, but one on my computer. And I stopped worrying about how I would live without cookies, without cake or ice cream. And I started realizing that I could no longer live with it. The pain of living with it was greater than the pain of living without it. And I said, well then, I am tired of being in pain, and it is time to get out of pain. Enough is enough. And so, physical list in hand. Let me tell you, it is long and it is detailed. And people have looked at it when they've asked me and said, how do you do it? And I say, how couldn't I do it? Because my life was a mess when I was living in that list. When I was consuming that stuff, it was consuming me. That's how. That's how that list, that's how I live with that list. So I walked back into that raging, stinking creek, and I kept going, and guess what? I did not give up until the miracle happened, and I emerged on the other side. The island of recovery, I call it that. It doesn't mean you're alone. It just means, there's no bridges connecting it. Okay? You got to work to get to it. So guess what? Once I got there, now this is the key. Once I got there and I saw where I had come from, I realized I could never go back. And I am not saying there was nothing I could do that would send me back there. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, oh, I'll never make mistakes. No, because there's no guarantees with this. What I'm saying is it no longer made sense to me. It just didn't make sense. And I kept looking at it going, oh my God, why did I ever think that made sense? Why was I so afraid to leave that place? That place is sick. Oh my God, why would I ever want to leave this place? In other words, it just didn't fit anymore. It wasn't comfortable. I could not get back in that stinky water and go back there. No way. I was going to do whatever it took to stay here. I want to stay here. I don't want to go back there ever again. It doesn't make sense. Only recovery gave me the clarity of thought and belief and well-being that I had never known. I had never known a sense of quiet in my head where food no longer screamed my name, where cupcakes no longer screamed at me from the kitchen, where cookie dough never yelled at me and said, just eat me. I never knew that peace until I took the plunge and I kept the faith and I made it to the island. And that is the miracle that I am talking about. But I can't make it happen for you guys. I can't even really explain to you how it feels. I mean, I'm doing my best, but I can just say, don't give up. Don't give up. Keep fighting. It's worth it, whatever it takes. And whether I'm talking about recovery from addiction or obesity or life, it is worth it. So what were some of the things that I left back there on that distant shore of sickness? That was what you guys asked about yesterday. Insecurity, denial, lies, superiority, lack of self-worth, lack of compassion, people-pleasing, perfectionism, doubt. Those were the things that kept drowning me, that I kept feeding and overfeeding, okay? Don't get me wrong. Those things still call to me. They do. They call at me from over there on that distant shore. And when that happens, when those things threaten to pull me back to that shore of sickness and addiction and imprisonment, because that's what it is, I remind myself I don't need those things anymore. I don't need them. They aren't true. They're lies. That is the key for me. They're lies. They're not true. Insecurity, why? I've got what I need to do what I need to do. Doubt? What good is doubt? That's just stopping me from doing what I need to do, which is share the gift of recovery. People pleasing? Can't do it. Perfectionism? Not possible. Lack of self-worth? I don't have time for that. I'm not more or less important than anybody else, but I'm important. Okay? So I talk back to the lies. I talk back to the lies. So, but those are the things that ate me up and I overfed them. I don't know what your things are that you overfeed. I don't know what things eat you up, but I'm betting some of them are very similar to mine. All right? I didn't know better then. I didn't realize I was doing it, or I didn't think I could change it. Thanks to the help and support of very, very loving friends, the firm guidance of great therapists, reconnecting with my church, just support system, a really solid support system. I've been able to throw away the used Kleenex, the chewed gum in the wrappers, the empty lotion bottles, the useless crap that I was lugging around in my purse. You know, the insecurity, the denial, the hurt, the disappointment, the lies. Got it? That's how it looked on me. That's what was in my bag. I don't know what's in your bag. And I can't tell you how to dump it out. I can just tell you that you need to make room for the healthy things in your life that represent recovery. I don't know what's overwhelming you in your house. I can just tell you that you can't do it alone, okay? No one can do it for you. So seek a therapist. Do your best to find somebody who can counsel you, okay? Join a good support group. Find a 12-step program. if that makes sense for you. If you find that you're struggling with addiction, that's totally free. Talk to a priest or a pastor. Get the support. Find your courage. That's what this is all about. It takes courage and commitment. Don't give up before the miracle happens, you guys. Don't give up. And it is a miracle. You never know how close it is. You just don't. But guess what? You will never accept it if you don't recognize it when it happens. And that, my friends, is a conversation for another day. How do you know what the miracle looks like if you're not willing to recognize it when it happens? We will talk about that another day. So I'm going to leave you guys with that because, as usual, someone's buzzing by my door with that look of panic that says, I can't do it without you. But no one can do it for you, people. They should watch my show, don't you think? So I'm going to leave you with that. I am going to follow up with your wonderful comments, and I'm going to commend you for your courage and your bravery and your commitment to being here with me. That matters, you guys. It really, I'm humbled. I would like to say I'm speechless, but that wouldn't make much of a show, would it? And I love, Nina, you called this a class. I love that. I love that. I call it a show, you call it a class. Look, if you're learning, then call it whatever you want. As long as you're learning about the fact that you have what you need to live in recovery, wow, then my work is done. Of course, there'll probably be a show tomorrow. So I'm going to sign off and remind you guys to have courage, seek peace, embrace joy, and above all, why not live on the island of recovery? Remember, you can't stop feeding what's eating you if you don't know what's eating you. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.